Hello again all. This video is to explain some of the ways to output over 1 million points of damage in Warframe. The highest I counted in this video is just over 14 million points of damage on one shot. Keep in mind that this is against Techrot enemies at level 140 and above in Warframe 1999. Long story short, it all begins and ends with the mod system. From time to time, younger Tenno will ask me how to come to grips with the mods. These heroes can't quite wrap their heads around the system. I can definitely relate because I struggled with this as well in the early days of playing Warframe, and I came from a Monster Hunter background, a game that's all about modding. On a side note, it is never a good thing if a player has to consult a wiki to understand the systems in your game, but I digress. The good news is once you understand how the basics work, the rest becomes earning or buying the rarer mods that can really boost your productivity in-game. If you see someone soloing a mission that has kicked your behind constantly, chances are you're going out with the wrong mod setup and maybe even the wrong Warframe. For instance, in this video I use Site09. He's not the best Warframe for extermination missions because the Techrot and the Skaldra have a habit of ganging up on you at a choke point, overwhelming you from all sides. Site09 is not a good crowd control Warframe. His abilities are much more suited to assassination missions or any mission that requires single targets to be killed. He has no default ability in his Warframe to attack multiple enemies at once. This can be added, but that's a video for another day. Site's ability to turn invisible can be an equalizer though, which I use quite a few times. Basic principle, you can't hit what you can't see. I'm also using Rubico Prime with a silencer on it. The reason being is this: although you may be invisible, enemies can still hear the firing of your guns. They'll immediately run to where the sound originates. The second you become visible, they jump on you. The silencer causes them to meander a bit. No sound, but their buddies are dropping like flies from an enemy they can't see. So, Site isn't ideal for this particular video without crowd control abilities, but he's so much fun to play regardless. If you watch closely. Just a few seconds ago, one shot from Rubico Prime delivered 12,244,162 points of damage as well as 13,998 points of shield damage, which is displayed on screen. These incredibly high levels of damage aren't a glitch or a cheat code. They're the result of specific mods that are used in such a way to stack damage multipliers based on key circumstances. Even the blade that's being used, a custom Zaw made on Cetus, causes high damage. If you watch closely, you'll see strikes that range from 2,000 points of damage up to over 500,000 points of damage. This is all the work of a specific mod set with damage multipliers that stack. To be fair, Techrot enemies generally don't have a high amount of armor like the Grinnir. Although, similar to Corpus enemies, they have pretty robust shields. One strategy is to use weapons with gas attributes. Gas can bypass shields entirely and directly attack an enemy's health. That's fun, but I decided to go the brute force method. Mod guns to deliver so much power that they can shatter the shield in 2 or 3 hits, if not one hit, and cause critical damage to the target when the shield is down. Magnetic damage works well here because it can not only disable a shield, it can prevent the enemy from regenerating their shield for a short period of time. With that in mind, the weapons in use here have magnetic attributes, as well as mods for higher damage such as Serration. My Zaw, the Dragon Reborn, has a mod attached called Condition Overload. What this mod does is grants an additional 80% increase in damage to the enemy for each status effect that affects them. Specifically, if an enemy is suffering from slash damage, magnetic damage, and impact damage for example, that's an increase of 240% of damage delivered per strike. 80% for each status effect. Remember, status effects are not permanent. They do run out, and sometimes, they run out quickly. The effects can be prolonged with mods, but regardless. That's why it's imperative to keep the attack going, to take full advantage of these benefits. Watch closely for a few seconds as there is a very simple but effective technique I use to raid the cache in this section of the video. There is a way to deliver 2 items to a location instead of 1 by using your drifter, or operator, as well as your Warframe. It's invaluable in excavation missions and these extermination missions. Others knew of this some time ago, but I stumbled upon it last year. Simply go to the first item, pick it up with your Warframe. Use transference to exit the Warframe and grab the second item as the drifter. You'll notice your Warframe never dropped the first item picked up. In this case, run to the cache as the drifter, deliver the charge. Then use transference to call your Warframe to your location and place the second charge that's still in its hand. As you can see, this makes raiding the cache very easy and very fast. There is a caveat though. Sometimes, the detonation charges for the cache are not close by. As you can see from the stage layout, everything is in ruins. Searching can be very difficult as enemies attack you constantly and there is a time limit. The charges give off a distinctive sound when close by, which helps, but sometimes you simply won't find them. The method described for carrying 2 at a time definitely works, but in some instances, you won't be able to find the second charge in time. This is an example of when playing with at least one other Tenno would help immensely if the charges are farther away from the cache. Let's talk more about the mods. For this we need to go back to Arsenal.
Select destination.
Between the 5 of us, we have so much range to play with. Hard drive's deep voice is a producer's dream. Seriously.
This is the weapon loadout for Site-09 that was used in the last mission. Rubico Prime is a favorite because it has very high accuracy, high critical chance percentage, delivers high damage, it fires as fast as you can pull the trigger and the recoil is minimal. The negative is the clip only has 5 rounds. If you're going to use Rubico or Rubico Prime, your accuracy has to be really good, or you're dead. Laetum is my current pistol of choice, replacing a custom-made RCP-45 SC from Fortuna. Rude Zood may act weird, but she makes cool stuff. The RCP is a auto pistol with a fast fire rate and has decent status percentage and critical hit percentage, as well as a large clip. But the overall damage wasn't quite good enough for Warframe 1999. Laetum on the other hand is a Zeriman weapon. It fires like a Desert Eagle and packs a punch. The clip only has 11 shots though, and the recoil is a bit much. But Laetum has a secondary function that makes it a weapon of choice. When it's powered up, the secondary function transforms Laetum into a full auto-firing pistol. It can be described as a rapid-fire Desert Eagle. It absolutely decimates Warframe 1999 enemies. Even Eximus enemies, ripping through their shields with ease. Skipping the ZA for now, let's look at the mods. As you can see, there is a purple Riven mod that stands out. It took quite some time to earn that, but it grants 51% increase in electricity, 84% increase in critical chance and 25% increase in reload speed. To be fair, these are modest enhancements compared to some other Riven mods I've seen, but I stuck with this configuration because it gave me the attributes I valued. If you look at the left side panel, the Riven disposition category only shows a rating of 2 out of 5. Obviously, the higher the rating the better. Think of it as a compatibility rating between that particular Riven mod and that particular gun. The higher the compatibility, the better the chance of getting better attributes from the Riven mod. Riven mod stats can be changed by re-rolling them. Basically, like a lottery for a chance to get better stat bonuses for the mod. It is literally a crap shoot though, as some stats can go into the negative or you'll sometimes get stats that are useless. Also, re-rolling a Riven mod is not free. It costs Kuva, which can be hard to acquire if you're still fairly new to Warframe. Still, you can also see my critical hit percentage is at 126 with a 6.6 times multiplier. What that means is, critical hits are guaranteed, which then goes into yellow critical and red critical hits. Think of a yellow critical hit as not full impact. Red critical hits are full power, the enemy is fucked, critical hits. Reds cause the most damage. In other words, let's say you shoot an enemy and a gun that usually does 5,000 points of damage. If that particular hit is a red critical hit, times that by 6.6, which would actually be 33,000 points of damage for that one hit. If the hit was a yellow critical, not full critical, then the damage would still be higher than normal but not as high as a red critical. Confusing, sure, when you're getting started. In simple terms, you want your critical chance and critical damage rating to be as high as reasonably possible. Primary Acuity is one of my favorite mods, but it comes at a cost. As the description says, it grants a 350% increase in critical chance when hitting an enemy's weak point, as well as a 350% increase in critical damage. Keep in mind that this is in combination with the Riven mod we just talked about, as well as two other critical chance, critical damage mods equipped, Point Strike and Vital Sense. The cost is that all equipped multi-shot mods are reduced to 1, rendering them useless. What are multi-shot mods? These mods grant an increase in damage output when equipped and allow a gun to fire multiple rounds with one pull of the trigger. Each round has its own status chance, critical damage percentages. The higher the multi-shot stat, the more bullets that can release from the barrel at the cost of a single round. Meaning if you shot a sniper rifle for instance and it has a multi-shot rating of 2. That means 2 bullets can leave the barrel instead of 1 and will only cost you 1 round. If both rounds hit the target, each round can be a critical hit or cause a status effect or both. So, if a normal, single hit from the rifle causes 5,000 points of damage but 2 rounds leave the barrel and both rounds hit the target, that's potentially 10,000 points of damage. If both hits are critical, that's potentially 20,000 points of damage or more depending on the percentages, where the target was hit, armor and shield stats and attack bonuses. Using primary acuity can make up for the loss of multi-shot, but it only makes sense if you have high accuracy and know where the enemy's weak points are. Shaky Joe aiming absolutely will not cut it. Sight 09 has an ability that reveals enemy weak points. Banshee also has this ability. Primary acuity is one of the key reasons why millions of points of damage delivered is possible, even if it's not the only way to achieve this. The other option is to go for high status chance percentages. In my previous video on configuring a 8-bit do ultimate for Euro aiming on Steam Deck, I used Coda weapons in Warframe that have very high status chance percentages. They were effective to a degree, but the problem being the damage over time wasn't killing the enemies fast enough. Certain status effects such as fire, ice, lightning, or magnetic can stun or slow the enemy, which is great. But other status effects such as toxin, gas, and viral allow the enemy to continue to attack even as the effect is slowly killing them. Death to the enemy is good, but we want quick death. Every faction in Warframe will attack you with legions. This is why I switched to Rubico Prime and Laetum. For survival, enemy bodies have to fall like raindrops. Next on the list are Arcanes. Arcanes are basically additional mod slots, but for specific mods that you get from certain missions or from certain vendors in-game. An example would be the Arcanes that Eleanor sells in Warframe 1999. In Arsenal, you can see I have a Arcane named Primary Deadhead equipped on the Rubico Prime. What this does, is exactly what it says. After a precision headshot kill, the gun will gain a 120% increase in damage for 24 seconds, a plus 30 headshot multiplier as well as negative 50% in recoil. This also means that if you do 3 precision headshot kills in quick succession, the damage bonus will stack up to 360%. Keep in mind that the Arcanes bonuses also stack with the critical chance and critical damage bonuses from other mods, as well as weak point damage bonuses from primary acuity. When attack bonuses are stacked like this, it becomes easier to solo many missions and boss battles in Warframe. Easier doesn't mean easy though. There are still enemies and circumstances in missions that can and will kill you. Let's take a moment and watch as I get surrounded and die. What you just saw, as the Drifter emerges from his downed Warframe, is an ability called Last Grasp. Operators and Drifters can use mods as well as Arcanes. They also have access to the various schools of combat, such as Vazarin, the School of the Protectors, or Madurai, the School for Extreme Aggression in Combat. There are 5 schools in all, and each represents an element as well as additional abilities suited to that school's mentality. I currently use Oniru, or the Steel Wolves as I like to call them. Officially they're called the School of the Indomitable. To withstand all aggression of the enemy and never retreat. Last Grasp is a Oniru ability that allows you to rise from your fallen Warframe as the Drifter or Operator. Kill as many enemies as possible before the timer runs out, and you'll revive inside of your Warframe, cheating death. If you don't succeed in killing enough enemies, then the timer runs out and you die. Which is exactly what happened here. This can serve as a good example though. It is a good idea to complete the story mission, the Old Blood, or the Sisters of Pavos, and spare at least one Lich or Sister from either of those factions. The reason being, if you're killed in a mission, especially if you're killed multiple times, the member that you spared will sometimes arrive to help you, which is what happens here. I spared a female member of the Old Blood, Felid, and she's an absolute tank with a pistol that does really high impact damage. I also made her the security officer on my railjack too. She berates me for being careless and arrives to back me up. Side note. There is a glitch here as well. If your Lich arrives on their own but you also have the beacon in your item will to summon a crew member from your railjack, you can use that beacon while your Lich is present, which will allow another version of your Lich in the mission at the same time. The last example will be the mod setup for Laetum. Here we have Hornet Strike, which is similar to Serration on Rubico Prime. It grants a 220% increase in damage. Pistol Acuity, which is the pistol version of the same mod on Rubico Prime. 350% critical chance and 350% critical damage upon hitting an enemy's weak point. To boost magnetic damage output, there are various ice mods, Ice Storm and Frostbite. Ice Storm gives 40% cold damage as well as 40% increase to magazine capacity. Frostbite gives 60% in cold damage as well as 60% in status chance. Prime Convulsion is a lightning mod that gives 165% increase in lightning damage, but this damage is combined with Magnetic Might, which gives 60% in magnetic damage and 40% in status chance. Magnetic damage output is created by combining ice and lightning. So, the ice mods, combined with Prime Convulsion and Magnetic Might, all work together to grant a magnetic power rating of 1664 per bullet fired. The total damage output for Laetum is 2176. I've made some changes since recording this footage, so the critical chance percentage now stands at 48.4% with a 3 times multiplier. Potentially, a single round as a critical hit could cause 7,180.8 points of damage instead of 2,176. 2,176 times 3.3 equals 7,180.8. Remember, Laetum also has pistol acuity installed. So if the bullet fired hits an enemy weak point, that is potentially an additional 350% increase in damage, which would amount to 2,513,280 points of damage. 7,180.8 times 350. As you watched the gameplay footage, notice that Laetum caused damage very similar to this number and reached as high as 3 million at times. Since making this video, barrel diffusion has been removed because it's rendered useless with pistol acuity installed. Barrel diffusion is a multi-shot mod that grants 120% in multi-shot. With pistol acuity installed, that 120% is reduced to 1%. Lethal Torrent is also a multi-shot mod, but that stays because it also grants a 60% increase in fire rate, which is how I'm firing Laetum so quickly. Recoil was a problem, but if you look to the right of the mod screen, Steady Hands is installed. That grants a 60% decrease in weapon recoil. That's how Laetum is being fired so quickly, without massive recoil. The Arcane mod that you see above Steady Hands is Secondary Merciless. It grants a 30% damage increase for 4 seconds after killing an enemy, and it stacks up to 12 times. 30% times 12 equals 360% damage increase. Remember, Laetum has a secondary form that allows it to fire full auto. It's Incarnate form. Killing multiple enemies within 4 seconds in this mode becomes trivial. Also keep in mind that this damage also stacks with every other mod installed on the gun. If you have the correct mods installed, every gun, every melee weapon, every Warframe is viable in many cases. If you find yourself struggling using particular weapons, the problem usually lies within the mod arrangement. As long as I've been playing Warframe, there are still mods I simply haven't found, and prices for these mods at the relay stations can be ridiculous. Warframe market helps a bit, but prices are still a bit high. But that too is a story for another video. With that, we've reached the end of this presentation. Hopefully there are those that will find the information presented here useful. When I started playing Warframe, the struggle was real, trying to understand the various systems and the lore. But the art direction, presentation and gameplay are so much fun, the struggle was bearable. With well over 3,000 hours into the game over the course of 7 years, it's the longest I've ever spent with any title. The only other that comes close are various Monster Hunter games, but the play time over multiple titles would have to be combined to even come close to my total play time for Warframe. The results presented within this video illustrate only my way of achieving them. There are many ways to conquer enemies and missions in Warframe, which is why it's a great idea to watch a variety of channels from other Tenno, as others have found some incredible ways to survive. As always, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and feel free to add, correct or share info in the comments section. It's all appreciated, and that way, we gain more knowledge.